Welcome to the Write Your Own Story podcast. I'm your host, Betsy Leonidas, and the founder of the Write Your Own Story company. Girl, I can tell you right now, you are definitely enough. Here we value service, sisterhood, connection, laughter, and that super genuine, keep it real, tell you like it is honesty. My hope is at the end of each episode, you realize you can do whatever it is you dream about and that you are not alone with what you struggle with. I'm hoping that you are snapping and clapping and hell yes in your way through each one of these episodes. So if this tracks with you, let's get started. I'm so glad you're here. All right, everyone, welcome back to the latest episode of the Write Your Own Story podcast. I am so thrilled to be here today with Kate Schroeder, who is the president and CEO of Interactive Health, an absolute queen in her industry amongst many others. I found out that we have a friend in common, Laura Roller. Shout out to Laura. But I am so thrilled to have you on the show and to have you in my life, because even just talking to you for 30 minutes before we decided to book the show, I was so inspired. So I can't wait for everyone to hear your story.
Yay, I'm so excited to be here.
Good. Okay, so what I want to start us off with is what happens when an experience changes your perspective so profoundly that you can't go back to living or even making decisions the way that you did before. So Kate is one of Cincinnati's leading voices in public health, but her story is so much more than the impressive roles that she's held, from working in Zambia to surviving cancer to running for Congress and navigating the doors that have opened after plans have changed. Kate has built her life with an incredible combination of curiosity, courage, and perspective that I'm so excited for all you women to hear. This episode is dedicated to the women who have been changed by something she never would have chosen, and is ready to use that perspective as fuel and fire for what comes next. Kate, thank you so much for being here. I just got goosebumps reading the intro about you. Okay, so before we get into all the amazing things that you've done, I would love to start before, these kind of like life-changing events, like your time in Zambia, your health, everything like that. One of my favorite things to talk about on this show is like, we come up as young women and gets going in our professional world, especially if you are a driven person like you or I, sort of what was your expectations of like how you were supposed to live life and what you wanted life to be like?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I feel like so much of our expectations or vision, even whether or not we name it, is baked in us by how we grew up and how we were raised. So I was in a very service-oriented family, right? My
cool.
dad was a physician, my mom was a nurse. We were all about giving and volunteering, and I was one of 4 kids. So there's that.
Yeah, there's
so
it's a dynamic.
You go from the start.
Yeah,
when you
right?
have that many siblings,
totally.
You know that like it's not about you.
Right.
It's never about you.
It's a group.
So, but I was raised to challenge myself, to love myself, to be confident.
I love that.
One of my favorite memories growing up. So I grew up in Cincinnati
you did.
And went to Nativity.
I love it.
And I do remember from a very young age, not being frustrated by things that were only open to boys and not girls. And so we had, I don't know how familiar you are with the Catholic Church, but there was always altar boys that wear the white robes and would help the priests.
Right, and have like a prominent role.
Yes, have the prominent role and, more interesting than just sitting in your seat the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was pretty funny. At Nativity, the boys would always be the altar boys at service, and a priest came to our 5th grade class once right before Pentecost and said, "Hey, Pentecost is on Sunday. We don't have any altar boys. Can one of you guys, help out?" And of course, this is 5th grade boys, so nobody.
Right. No one raised their hand. Yeah. Their parents make them do it.
And it gets awkward. And from a young age, I like to avoid awkward moments. And again, he's asking again, can anybody please help on Sunday? And after about 30 seconds, I just raise my hand.
Good for you.
And the priest doesn't know what to do. And he looks at the teacher, and then finally the priest is like, "Well, do you know what to do?" And I said, "Yeah, I watched it a bunch.
Right, I've seen this show.
I think I'll be fine." He's like, "Okay, we'll come on Sunday." So I went that Sunday and put the robe on and served the mass, and it was no big deal.
Yeah.
And then from that point forward, there were always altar girls at Nativity as well as altar boys. And it was not a formal change in anything, but I feel like that is the way I was raised, to just like show up, say yes, help out when you see a need.
That's incredible. Did you feel like So my family is family of entrepreneurs, business-minded people. So I just went down that path, not because they made me by any stretch of the imagination. I just kind of like repeated what I saw.
Right.
Do you feel the same way?
Yes, I was always drawn towards healthcare
Yeah.
and towards service.
Yeah.
Of, you know, we are in a family where you take care of others and
Yeah.
show, and just don't ask, volunteer, you know, show up and help out where there's a need.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. Do you feel like that there was ever a moment before, you know, like as you're starting your career and you're getting going, that you were ever like, is this really what I wanted to do? Like, did you ever have that moment to like check in? I didn't check in on that until I was probably like 35 and had 4 kids and was starting to feel the rub of like corporate life against motherhood. And I was like, wait, did I even want to do any of this? Not that it's anybody else's fault, but my own, you know, like just kind of taking in all these inputs and never filtering. Did you ever have a moment where you checked in like that?
I think so. The natural path of my family was to go be a healthcare provider, clinician. And I
clearly
knew from a young age, I was like, I rather than one patient at a time, I like to solve problems at, now I would say, the system level.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
So I thought growing up, politics and policy and health policy, got a job in that right out of college. I got what I thought was my dream job, working on Capitol Hill. And that
is incredible.
It was incredible. It was 1999. And I loved it. I loved the work. I loved the challenge of it, but I did not love that I felt like it took 15 years to get sort of a mediocre bill through Congress. And that was back then. I can only imagine. Now. So then I did question. I was like, can this be my life? I'm very results oriented. I like to get things done. And that's when in my early 20s, I sort of took a step back and said, okay, maybe I want to go get my MBA to be able to flip between the public and private sector.
Yes.
And that, so I think having that curiosity of like, we have a plan, but questioning ourselves as we're going. And also always in the back of my mind, that voice of what am I, you know, how do I want to live my life? How am I, is this the highest and best use of my contributions?
Totally. I think, you know, I think that feels so wise as a 20-year-old. And like, I also feel like the industry that I was in, which was like advertising in New York City, it sort of bred that in corporate in general. And I'm curious if your line of work was the same, where especially as you're trying to pass bills and make change, I'm literally putting commercials about air freshener on TV. You are changing public policy. But like, I just became so obsessed with the metrics of it all, because that's what your worth is valued on in those environments. And like, that has been something that I've grappled with as an adult, because those things do matter. Important things should be measurable. You are driving change. People are giving you money to drive change. But then like on a personal level, and it feels great to be good at your job, especially when it's connected to making real change in our communities, our society, our healthcare. But like, do you ever get caught in like a tangle of like, what is for work and what is for worth, and where does the line draw? And I don't know, the messiness of that.
So much so. I do think, especially as someone who is very driven and competitive, like I would say, you know, I loved sports growing up, went to Ursuline for high school, like loved just excelling, you know, achieving, having an opportunity and trying to figure it out and do well. And so then when I was in business school at University of Pennsylvania and everyone's going into consulting and investment banking, I was like, oh, should I go into this?
Should I?
Because it's a challenge. And then you want to be able to master that challenge and get the outputs of that. So I think it is hard. I think it's hard to figure out. And there's wonderful things that come out of those experiences too, because you get great skills that then you can apply, even if you don't stay in the sector or industry that you're in, you can apply those in a different area. So I think it's like everything, it's a balance
indeed
between taking the time to build those skills and also when you're 20, you know, I had a very outsized view of how much I could contribute to the world, but you also just have to be humble. And I feel this, you know, in all the jobs that I took, and a lot of them, you know, you're in entry-level roles. It's just like show up and add value. Show up and add value.
I love that, especially for entry-level roles. I feel like that's so important for today's younger generation, is like, certainly be authentic to yourself, but please don't lose sight of also adding value to what you've been hired for.
Well, and I think that like comes from family and from experience too. It's like, it's not about you. Like, And I think about that in my job now, where I am so privileged to be the CEO of an organization,
Mm-hmm.
but the organization is bigger than me. It's bigger than anybody there. And
Yeah.
our decisions need to be driven not what's best for me as an individual or any of my colleagues, but really what's best for our organization and the community that we're serving. And so it's that balance of being challenged and going for those big opportunities, but also recognizing that it's about the mission more than the individual.
Definitely. I appreciate that so much. And to me, like, that gives me the energy to show up for what I do and to collaborate better and to, I don't know, you lose sight of it when it becomes so personal.
Yes.
It's nice to be able to connect back to the mission and be like, wait, there's a real reason why I'm here.
Yes.
This is what I love about it. I think that that's like one of the things that I've noticed in this chapter of my life is being able to connect to the emotional side of things while still seeing the greater purpose of why, which I have so many more questions for you around that. So I'm going to try and pause because I'm like so excited, but I'm going to try and pause given the perspective. But can we just put a pin in that for 1 sec? Because I would love for you to tell people about what you do, since it is so mission driven and like your organization is incredible. So just so people have this context as we continue to chat.
Yes. So I'm the CEO at Interact for Health. We're a health foundation that serves the 20 counties around greater Cincinnati. And it's such an amazing asset for our community because Interact was formed in 1997. We had a physician-owned HMO, health maintenance organization that was here. It was sold to Humana.
Okay.
And so the proceeds, $250 million from the sale of that, went to create the assets that are the investment base for our foundation.
Incredible.
And every year we spend at least 5% in investment and grants and nonprofits to our community. So since 97, we've spent over $230 million.
Wow.
In Cincinnati, in the greater Cincinnati region. And we do a lot of work. It's changed, the areas in which we've focused over the year have changed based on needs, did a lot in the opioid and addiction response efforts. And more recently, we're very active in the youth mental health and well-being space. We do around $8 million a year in grants to the community. We're 22 staff, and we do a lot of convening and collaboration so that, like any challenge that's facing our community, no one organization is going to solve that alone. So we work in partnership with nonprofits, with government, with other funders, with the private sector to help make a difference.
That's really cool that you can be so flexible in where you want to invest. I mean, that feels like a dream for someone who,
it's incredible.
Yeah, totally.
It's very interesting too. One of the biggest privileges of being in philanthropy is, someone hears you're in philanthropy, they're like, okay, you're a grant maker. Yes, we are. But that's one piece of who we are. We also can be a convener and a collaborator. We provide data to make data more accessible and useful to our community and nonprofits.
Yes, totally.
We can use our voice. So few organizations, our revenues are not impacted by what we say and do. Like, that is amazing.
That is amazing.
We do not fundraise. Our funds come from our investment portfolio. And so it is such a gift. Now we can't lobby, but we can use our voice to speak hard truths, to help educate our community. And it's a calling and an opportunity, and one of my favorite things about my job.
Oh my God, it's incredible. I think fundraising is the hardest part. I shouldn't say it's the hardest part. That's really the only part that I've ever been exposed to in any type of nonprofit situation. And it is such a lion's share of effort that, like, I'm so happy for you that, like, you have a different strategy that you can just focus on being mission forward. And I guess incredible.
It's very fortunate.
Okay. Because I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew all the great work that you're up to. And I love that you have gone from Capitol Hill. Now let's talk about what's in the middle. So how did you end up in Zambia? And like, this to me, like, I kind of titled this section in my prep. I was like, this is so much more than a resume builder for you. I mean, tell us how you got there. What's the story?
Yeah. So I was, after business school, I moved back to Washington, D.C. and was doing best practice research and consulting at this advisory board company that I loved.
Awesome.
Had no intention of leaving. I was living my best life.
Yeah, totally.
in my,
right? You're like, this is home.
Mid to late 20s, working with great, very sharp and fun colleagues, learning a ton and adding value in the healthcare space. And I started dating John, who's my now husband.
Aww.
But he had just finished his master's in international affairs, and we were out with a bunch of his friends, and somebody said, does anybody have an MBA and healthcare experience? The Clinton Foundation is hiring in Zambia.
Oh my God.
And John's like, you should meet my girlfriend, Kate. So as life happened, I passed my resume on a whim. At the time, it was President Clinton's foundation was called the Clinton HIV/AIDS Initiative at the time. CHI was the acronym, and they were growing from 10 countries to 35. And the primary model was to bring private sector skills to solve public health challenges.
Yeah.
And we would work with governments primarily in Africa and Asia to pool volumes for HIV medicines to negotiate more affordable drug pricing, knowing that pharmaceutical companies need to make a profit, but rather than having that profit be high margin, low volume over just North America, Europe, Brazil, make it accessible to everyone in the world, particularly where most of the patients are.
Right. So
that model, CHI had applied that model and reduced prices with adult HIV medicines from $10,000 per patient per year down to $1,500 with the first negotiation.
Wow.
And then down to $500 and $300. They would do it every 6 months. It was an amazingly effective model.
Yeah.
And the partner governments that we worked with wanted to do the same with pediatric medicines, but to be able to negotiate and get enough volumes, thank goodness for children, there weren't as many. And so you had to be in 35 countries to be able to pool the volume. So they were expanding, doing a bunch of hiring. And so I'm 29 years old. Through these conversations, end up applying, going through the interview process and getting offered a job to move to Zambia. And, in retrospect, I can't believe I paused, but I did pause. But, I had no idea where I was going. I'd never been to Africa at the time.
That's a big life change. I feel like a pause is okay. I feel like I'd give it a quick little pause. Yeah.
My parents were very skeptical. But, you're 29.
Yes.
John and I did not have children. We were not married yet. It was a point in my life where I could up and move to another country.
Totally.
And I sort of thought about it. I thought, well, what's the worst case scenario? Is I go and it doesn't work and I can come back. And the place I was working was actually wonderful about it. They said, it doesn't work back. Oh, you can have
your job
back here. And so I was like, oh, done.
Heaven.
I was like, okay,
truly.
I will go. And so I took this leap of faith and it changed my life in so many ways. I mean, just to have that perspective of living in a country where life is so different, and a lot of the little things, whether it's, that you can't drink the tap water, the power goes out multiple times a day.
Oh my gosh.
You're sitting in a meeting, get a text that there's going to be a fuel shortage, and everybody gets up and goes and sits in line for gas for 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
There's so many things that it's an experience of, it gives you gratitude and perspective for where we live, but also, and where we were born, but it makes you realize, the Zambians are some of the most amazing, loving, joyful people. And, I think as Americans, you would see the kind of, the daily challenges that they face. And it's like, that would be so difficult.
Absolutely.
And yet they're in many cases happier, less stressed than we are. And so there's certain lessons about that. And then professionally, it was 1,000 lessons a day on
I can only imagine
how to be effective working.
President
Clinton felt very strongly, which I completely agree with. We are there at the invitation and the service of the government. So we was embedded within the Ministry of Health. We would not put our logo on anything. For something to be successful, the government had to own it and lead it. And so we were working with and through our government partners, and I was having to quickly learn that culture and how to be effective and how to show up in a way, how to show up and add value.
Right. How to show up and add value. But I think, I want to get back to, like, you said that you look at them, and again, like going back to the American way, it's like, okay, you look at their lifestyle on paper and you're like, okay, I don't think I'd opt in for that. That looks really hard and challenging. Where do you think their joy came from?
I think joy comes from the proximity to death.
Yeah.
And maybe that's...
No, I think that is so fair and important and profound. Yeah.
It's, when I lived there, the way that we have to provide health insurance if you're a business in the U.S. they have to provide funeral insurance.
Wow.
It's a business requirement. I was at a funeral a week.
I was going to say, did you witness a lot of death?
A lot of death. A big part of that was this was a time when AIDS was, and that was part of why we were there, was trying to increase access to the medication. But also, there are no blood banks. There are no ambulances. So if you have a heart attack, if you are in a car accident, so, I hired our local staff and we had 15, 20 people when I left. I knew the blood types of everyone because the only way to save someone if you have an accident is to go to the hospital, the one hospital that was in Lusaka where we lived, and have a transfusion right there with that type of
person to person.
So it was, person to person. So because there aren't blood banks, there aren't. And
then with HIV being so prevalent, that just feels complicated.
There's just a lot of there's a lot of death. There's a lot. You're at funerals all the time, but the celebration of people's lives, it was beautiful and amazing to witness and be part of those ceremonies. But it also, I think, it makes you realize what it means to be alive, and that you don't take it for granted.
Yeah,
because you're so close to seeing people die of preventable causes. And that was one of the challenges is, it was very American of me. I'd always, you'd be invited to these funerals and be like, well, why did this person die? What was it? Oh, it just happened. It just is. Kate, it just is. And I was like, what?
That was literally the response.
Sometimes there's not this, and that may be a coping mechanism, a cultural coping mechanism sometimes when there's so many things outside of your control.
Yeah.
But I think there is also just a joy and care and connection in a place that you don't take a day for granted, because you're so close to what it means not to have that opportunity.
I mean, it's so sobering to think about, because as much as we all conceptualize that, like, the only thing guaranteed in life, what do they say, are taxes and death?
Right.
Yeah. And it just feels, even though that is the only thing that is guaranteed, you can't get out without it. It still feels like such a foreign concept. Even if you've lost people in your life that you're very close to, it still is like, does that really, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It still is like, but I know that you've had your own health scare. Here, I'm going to move your mic closer because my producer's going to yell at me if I don't get good audio. How long were you in Zambia?
So I was there 2 years.
Okay.
And then I stayed working in global health for another 10 years through CHI.
Oh, amazing.
But based out of the US. So instead in Zambia, I was helping to staff and hire the local office.
Yeah. Like shore up the local component of it. Okay.
And then I moved to a global role. So I was based in the US. My team was all over the world, and I would spend about a week a month traveling to Africa or India.
Oh my gosh.
So I loved that work. It was not easy.
I can only imagine.
Like when I had small children, it became hard to sustain.
Right. You're like, I'm off to India. Yeah. Absolutely. Was it seeing how hard it is to navigate? Well, I'm sure you've experienced this. Because again, in healthcare, as you talked about, it's like kind of collaborating across segments and sectors and sides and whatnot. But like, for something that feels so systematically like, no, you just literally do A plus B equals C, but there's so many components to it. How do you manage that frustration of being like, you can see the strategic through line, but it is all the parts and pieces and people involved that are kind of the challenge? How do you handle that?
Well, and there's so many layers to it. You have to have extreme patience of like, you're not going to get a Hail Mary, but if you can move the ball down the field a couple yards, and you know what, you might go back, you might get sacked. But then you got to get up and go a few more yards down. And I think I had a really profound experience when I first got there. So I was part of being hired to, we had just negotiated, CHI had just negotiated discounted pricing for pediatric HIV medicines.
Incredible.
And we were building up these, we needed folks in country to be able to help the governments, access the pricing and develop some testing systems to identify the pediatric patients that were HIV positive to benefit from the medicines. And so we had some funding to support that. So I hired to be the country director in Zambia. My regional boss meets me after my 24-hour flight. We start at 7 a.m.
Oh my God.
Have 20 all day of meetings. She's there 2 days, takes off, is like, best of luck.
You got this.
You got this. And
Oh
I
my
had
God.
I had some grant funding to help the Ministry of Health scale up their testing and treatment systems, and also needed to work with them to be able to figure out how much they wanted to order of the reduced price medicines. So in that first week after my boss had left, I'm sitting down with the ministry, Dr. Mongo in the ministry, and I'm like, what are your priorities here? How can we be most helpful?
Yeah.
And they're like, Kate,
it just is.
we would love to work on pediatric HIV. Only 50% of our healthcare positions are filled. And,
okay.
Nurses, doctors, lab techs. So they're like, this, we can't even do the basics around vaccinations, deliveries, malaria. So, thanks for coming on pediatric HIV, but kind of saying like, this is not our priority right now. There's much bigger issues we're trying to deal with. And the number one being our health worker crisis. So that was a real aha for me when I was like, oh my goodness, I've just uprooted my whole life to come here and help do something that may not be a priority for them. And who am I flying in to say you need to work on this?
Yeah.
So it was so interesting. My political experience may have come in a little handy, where I quickly
this is where
learned.
we leverage these skills that we collect along the way, to your point.
So President Clinton had become good friends with President Mandela in South Africa, and he would come to Mandela's birthday in July every year, and he would visit 3 of the other countries. And no US president had ever visited Zambia yet. But I was like, I need to get President Clinton to come to Zambia, because the only way to be able to expand the scope of what we were doing would be to get that high. I knew enough to know, Kate, this new hire in Zambia can't just be like, let's do some health worker support. So was able, lo and behold, to get President Clinton to come visit Zambia as one of his 3 countries.
That's not a casual sentence, Kate. You're like, and then I got President Clinton to come see my work and see the gaps. And how did you do that?
I mean, it was part of it, the positioning. It was there is a lot of great work. You want to. It's an opportunity to amplify the work of the ministry there. And there's always the logistics and stuff, I knew, we were working some angles and getting advice from others that had planned these trips before. So we were able to, and whenever president comes into a country, there's always a head of state meeting. So President Manawasa in Zambia was going to host President Clinton. Of course, through the Ministry of Health, I was asked to help with the talking points for President Manawasa. Likewise, I was, of course, helping to feed into the talking points for President Clinton.
You're like, I am just talking this whole meeting. Thank you.
You're a junior person, but you're able to feed into these processes and say,
and your perspective is critical.
Yes. And President Manawasa was able to say, thank you so much for the support on pediatric HIV. We would also love your help on our health worker crisis. And President Clinton was ready to hear that message and knew that was coming.
It wasn't a surprise based on your priming.
Yes. And he said, we don't have funding now, but we'll work on it. We hear you and we want to be helpful. And, as a former president himself, he knows what it's like, he wants to be, the whole purpose we're there is to be responsive and helpful.
Yeah.
And so with that opening, we were able to fundraise to help get some funds directly. We helped write global fund applications to bring, help the government of Zambia access millions in health worker funding, both for community health workers. It was so interesting. We also did a big analysis with them around what types of support and clinicians were needed, and was it more of a retention problem, or were we not training enough?
That's fascinating. And then I'm sure everyone is able to take that data and then go use it elsewhere.
Yes, it was really eye-opening, because everyone thought the number one problem was retention. Because it's an English-speaking, English is the main language there. They have 99 tribal languages, but it's a former British colony. Most everyone spoke English, so their nurses were getting recruited elsewhere. So we thought the working hypothesis was retention was the biggest issue. When we built the models and put in the retention rates, what was amazing is even if they retained 100% of everyone they trained, we were never going above the 50% because they were not training enough. And
Ah,
so it was a great actual learning for all of us to
see?
figure out like what are the types of positions, how many training spots do we need, and there was an opportunity to really tighten the retention
Sure, but
piece.
you're like, what is the
Yeah.
actual systemic issue so that we
Yes.
can, if we finally get the gift of this giant grant, like let's
Yes.
make sure we use it wisely.
Yes.
Absolutely. God, what an incredible experience. What, like after 2 years, were you ready to go? Were you ready to go back stateside? What made you come home after 2 years?
I think part of it was I was in my early 30s and wanting to eventually get married and have kids. And
Totally.
that was hard
Absolutely.
to do.
Absolutely.
Being over there. And also really the belief, it is having local leadership. It's always better to have Zambians. I think there were two of us that were expats in the office, but really wanting to have local leadership. So that was always the plan, was to come and help set things up, but to really have local folks lead the office.
Incredible. What was it like to leave and come back?
Hard.
Yeah,
And
I can imagine.
Yeah, but also wonderful.
Right, totally.
And I loved it's it's just, it's when you go back to places that have had a special time in your life. And the people are beautiful. Yeah, I've loved it. Someday I want to take my kids.
Yeah. So, that would be a beautiful full circle moment.
Yes.
Are your kids service oriented as much as kids can be? Big old caveat there. I'm like, are my kids?
They're 13 and 11.
Right. They have big hearts, but they're not like, who can I serve today?
Can be. If someone else is asking them to serve, they're more likely to say yes than mom.
So true. So true. Again, using our political ways.
Yes.
Yes. I know. My kids will be like, "Can you serve me my Cheerios?" But
yes. Can you bring me my milk?
Can you bring? Yes. But if I'm like, I need help with something, they're in. Oh my gosh, that's too funny. I think that's incredible. Okay, so then you go back to DC, and then you get this global role, and then what brings you back to Cincinnati?
Yes. So that I had my own healthcare experience.
Yes. Let's talk about your healthcare experience. So you come back, your eyes have been absolutely widened, not even just from like from a job perspective of like, okay, I went for one mission, there's a greater systemic issue. Oh my gosh, I've learned so much. Not from just the cultural of like, oh my gosh, I've seen so much. But now you come back to Cincinnati and you've seen so much health issues there. And now you come back to the States and you have your own health issue. Can you tell us?
So I was in this global role. Okay. Loved my job.
Still in the global role.
With Chai. Was managing our pediatric treatment work globally. I had come back from a trip. And actually it was a trip to Zambia. I remember because I was embarrassed and hoping that I wasn't going to see anybody in the airport. It's a small enough place. I'm like, oh my gosh, a lot of people here know me. But I was very sick. I got flu and just felt terrible and got home. It was November 1st of 2012. And I got home sick as a dog. But then that next morning when I woke up, I shrugged my shoulders and I noticed that I had like grapes on my right clavicle. And I thought, oh, this must be swollen lymph nodes. Didn't think anything of it.
I'm sick.
Like, I was like, oh, I've never noticed. I'm not a big noticer of.
Nor am I.
I'm just like, I'm good enough. Plow forward. So, but the flu went away, but then these bumps stayed. And I came home to Cincinnati for Thanksgiving. So a few weeks later. And my dad was an oncologist. So that Wednesday night I get home, we have dinner. I still remember where we were in their kitchen at their house. And I was like, Dad, will you look at this? I've got these bumps. And he felt both sides of my clavicle and he felt the back of my head. And he said, Kate, this is the classic presentation of lymphoma. And I was 32. I was like, Dad.
Right. We all think we're invincible.
I was like, yes. And I was like, this is what you see. It'll be fine. My dad was a very non-alarmist person, but he immediately was like, okay, if you want your care in Cincinnati, you got to get your scans on Friday. If you want your care in DC, you have to go first thing Monday. And I'm like, okay, Dad, it'll be fine. But he kept following up with me. And then, and so I said, okay, I'll go on Monday. Like I promise I'll go. It'll be fine. But I didn't really think it would be anything. In retrospect, there were signs. There was like, I was having night sweats.
But you also just had the flu.
Yes. And I had an extremely stressful time in my life. Like on paper, I was living my best life. I had a great apartment, great friends, great boyfriend, but like life was
High
but
octane.
it was high octane.
Totally.
So then I went that Monday and, was told it is lymphoma.
Were you told that Monday?
They knew. I mean, it hit me like I knew. I mean, I guess I never really entertained it. And that was like an A-B moment for me. When you look back on your life, you're like, okay, there are some days where like I was not the same person after that day. And I kept it together in the office when I got the scan results back, and they said, we'll need to do a PET scan, but this is a lymphoma. And I walked out on the corner of 20th and M in DC and just like lost it, bawling. And I was like, oh my God, you just have it. Like despite being proximate to death in Zambia, like I never thought it applied to me.
Yeah.
Like I always thought, oh, it'll be fine. I have this endless series of tomorrows, and things change in that moment. And so I, in some ways, after, you go quickly through the stages.
Yeah, totally.
And I immediately was like, oh my gosh, okay. Everything that I was stressed about yesterday just evaporated. Like all the things that I thought were stressful no longer mattered. And my sole goal was like beating this cancer, and I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out like where to go and how to do it. And I was so lucky it changed. It was the first time in my life too, since being a kid, really, then like I learned to lean on others and need others as somebody who was so self-directed and so independent.
Yeah.
It was, my mom came out to help. My friends came for each of the chemo treatments. I went through 4 months of chemo and lost my hair. And it was humbling, but also it reset what mattered for me. And that is why this is the longest answer ever. But
I love long answers. They're my all-time favorite. Please keep going.
Yes. And it was that experience that, I grew up in Cincinnati always thinking, oh, Cincinnati's a great place to be from, but I'm going to live somewhere.
I'm going to go. Same.
And then this experience took me off the treadmill. It just made me realize like, okay, what really meant, like at the end of the day, I was like, oh my gosh, if I get through this, like, what do I want? I want to make sure that if I can, it wasn't clear if I was going to be able to be a mom, because
that's a whole nother level of grief.
Sends you into the kind of chemo I was on. I think most chemos sends you into menopause, and like, they don't know if you'll be out. And so
you can theoretically maybe come out of it.
They said, we don't know, but they're like, we'll delay your treatment enough to do 1 round of IVF. And
that's got to be a scary decision in itself.
Oh, and John and I weren't married. And so there's all sorts.
And you're like, I'm leaving cancer in my body.
And the interesting thing now, I don't know if this is the same thing, but it made me furious at the time for men going into chemo. Insurance covered freezing your sperm. For women, they only covered it if the eggs were fertilized, because freezing your eggs. So if you didn't have a partner,
oh my God.
Because it was experimental. If it wasn't
literally makes my blood boil.
Yes, truly.
Yes,
truly. Yes. And so John and I, knew that we wanted to be together. Thank goodness. Like, but still, that's a lot to navigate.
It's a big one. That's a big one. That's a big one. You're like, so
so did that, and then started chemo right away.
Which
after that,
I have been through that process. Yes. It's hard as is. I can't imagine with the pressure of. There's the deep, desperate. If you find yourself in an IVF situation, you are desperate for these babies. Yes. Everyone is, but like it's a different experience, let alone to be this is my one shot.
This is my one shot. And by the way, your body's like trying to fight these other foreign things that are going on. So it's not, they're giving you the count and they're like, oh, this count is
they're like, not great. And they're like, just relax, it'll help. And you're like, what? Like, are you serious? It's not possible.
I know.
My God.
So all the things, but it just, it humbles you, and you're like, it's just going to be what it's going to be, and I'm going to do what I can.
Yeah.
And that was a wild, wild time. But I said, through that process, I was just like, if I get through this, like, I just want to be around, like less, that adage about, is the focus of your life, is it a resume driven life or an obituary driven life?
I I love that. I don't know if I've ever heard that adage, but I love that.
Yeah, it just reset what matters.
Yeah.
And I used to, I never had thought I'd move back to Cincinnati, but after that, I was like, I want to be around the people I love.
Yeah.
So, and life would be easier. We both, John and I, love to do sort of mission driven work.
Yeah.
And we're like, if we stay in DC, we're going to spend all of our time trying to make enough money to cover childcare. Like,
Absolutely.
if we're lucky enough to have children
Yep.
and pay the mortgage and all of that, we can have an easier life in Cincinnati. And he's from Wisconsin, so it's also
he gets
closer.
it. Yeah.
And it's closer to the Midwest.
So you were saying when you got the diagnosis and you were standing on the street's intersection, it was like you literally, like, the door closed A and like you became B. And is that where, like, did like adrenaline kick in and carry you through? Were there ever moments where you were like, you actually let the scary thoughts come in?
It was a swirl of adrenaline and despair and all of the emotions and just the rawness of it and like the letting go of, I think, of course, that you can die anytime, but I never really thought I was going to die.
Yeah, totally.
And just accepting the fact that maybe I won't live to be old, and maybe, like, what would that be like if I die soon? And honestly, I reckoned, and it's even hard to say out loud, but one of the realizations I quickly came to is, like, if I live but can't be a parent, I'll be so sad. Like, it made me realize that I really, like, that was something so important to me.
Yeah.
And so it did light up. Like, I knew I just got to focus on the treatment for now and getting through this.
Yeah.
But also it made me receive the help of others, like to be carried by others, like whether it was the treatment that I was getting at Georgetown and the nurses who were just angels.
I can only imagine.
And my family and friends, and just letting go and realizing that, you can only do so much, and like go through this process. And then coming out of it, I was, it almost feels like you've been turned inside out. Like, you're just
totally
more open.
Yeah.
More raw.
Yeah.
And like in a good way, tender.
Oh.
Yeah.
And this is like one of those examples where I certainly would never want anyone to experience. I hate that you had to experience it, but there are, and I don't know, it feels wrong to say, but gifts in there to be so open and be so tender. Like, even though you had such a enormous, generous, mission-driven heart before, but to turn that towards yourself and the life that you wanted to create, like, and to know that only that experience, well, you don't know, but that experience was the significant experience for you that changed everything for you. I don't know. It never feels great to be like, there are gifts in the pain, but
there
are.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
And life, and thank goodness there are silver linings to dark clouds.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally. Right. But I feel like, and when we talked before, one of my favorite things about your perspective is that it has never gone away, that you continue to carry that. Do you ever find, because I can imagine how traumatic that experience was, that fear comes with that perspective still? Or does fear ever come, once you know something bad can happen, you sort of can't unsee it? I mean, I guess you got plenty of that perspective in Zambia as well, but is that something you ever struggle with?
That's interesting.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, right. I would say less for myself. I think it actually was like the release of fear came out of that. And that was part of, after I ended up staying at Chai for 12 years total, but then stepped down to run for office.
Yeah.
And it was the letting go of fear. I don't think I would have run for office had I not had cancer, because it was the cancer that made me let go of caring what people thought of me, being not caring, like, I may win, I may lose, but I want to pursue this opportunity. I feel called to do this. I feel I can add value, and whether I win or lose, I don't care. But I know, like, if I died without doing this, I would regret it. It just made me realize that. So I do think it was a releasing of self-consciousness and both fear and self-consciousness, criticism of myself. I think I still, like anyone, the main fear that I have is around something happening to my children.
Yes. Oh my gosh, totally.
That fear, sometimes it creeps in and you're just like, okay, hello, fear. I'm going to let you go.
Right.
Because I can't do anything about it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It actually makes me think of when you were telling the story about how your dad was like, I was like, that is every parent's worst nightmare, your poor father.
Yes.
To be like, I know exactly what this is, and to be so sure. And, it's one thing when you help people and are so deeply connected to your patients, but it's another thing when you're looking in your own child's eyes to be like, oof.
I know what this is.
Yes.
Although he also was new enough to know that when we we knew it was lymphoma and then Hodgkin's. Hodgkin's is an aggressive one, but it's one where 80% respond to treatment. So
love that percentage.
Was like, yes, I was like, this is good.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, we're going to hope this is a Hodgkin's.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? You're like, okay, yes, this is bad, but let's hope for good bad.
Yes. Yeah. There's degrees.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk more about Congress because I love that perspective that you were able to let go of, you said, sort of the opinions of others, the self-criticalness of yourself. I don't think that made much sense, but everybody gets it. And to know that what is on your heart, that if you don't do it, you'll regret it, and to sort of release the outcome.
Yes.
I mean, that's incredible. And so what was that? Had you always wanted to run for Congress, or did the cancer experience just make you sort of like look inside even more that you're like, well, I was in there too?
Yeah, I think so. When I was young and I thought I wanted to go into politics, that was sort of part of the vision. And then when I worked on the Hill and discovered this career in global health, I thought, oh, that chapter is closed. Yeah. I always stayed involved personally, but never thought it would be worth putting yourself out there.
That is majorly out there.
It's real out there.
You're like out there.
And it's not just out there for you. One of the things that I did underestimate is how much it's out there for your family. So for John, like that,
yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yes. And my kids, fortunately, were young at the time. So less, now that they're older, it would be even harder because all of their friends would know, it's you're yoking them with, you're telling the world, there's a lot of judgment about candidates one way or the other. And there's a lot of intentional misinformation about who this person is.
Yeah.
And I was okay, every time my husband turned the TV on, there was a commercial, particularly because they were targeting men, about what a crazy person or extreme views, which were not accurate, but
of course
they're trying to convey a certain image so that another candidate wins. And so it's that's very painful for him to realize like that's you can't do anything about that.
And so to be, I'm sure he's so protective of you. And it's like, that would infuriate me if someone was saying these like incredibly egregious false
about your family.
Yes. Oh, that's got to be hard.
It's hard. So.
And how did you handle, to be honestly, how would you handle that when misinformation and like, I know you kind of have reached this new state of being like, I know it's not true. Yeah. This is not part of the mission. Yeah. I don't really care, but you're also a human.
And to not engage, like to limit your exposure to it. I don't go down and read all the comments. There's no need. Like I know who I am, but I'm always, I think one of my, superpowers or skills in life that also was useful in the political arena is being impossible to offend.
Oh my God. Can I have some? I'm so sensitive.
No, it's a good.
I think it's incredible.
It helps growing up with my siblings who like our way of showing love was making fun of each other.
Totally.
So you grow up in this environment and then, the advisory board company, one of their values when I worked there was running towards criticism. And I love that.
Wow. That's brave. I love that. What a perspective shift,
right? Like we can't grow if we don't improve, and we can't improve if we don't know.
Yes.
What could be better?
Yeah.
And so,
right. It could be constructive.
Right. And if it's not, it's meant well. Or if it's just mean, maybe it's mean. But okay. But I can choose whether to let that hurt me or not.
I love this. This is eye-opening. I'm like,
I'm like, it's like luggage. I think about it that way. I can choose whether to pick up the bag that you're setting down or not. And if I think it's going to be useful, I will pick it up.
Yeah.
And maybe it's hurtful and useful. And so I can name that. But it is, I think that quality is something I already had. I had to have it in spades running for office is just, and also I was a new candidate, right? I hadn't run for office before. So the only way I had any chance of being successful was to be a really fast learner,
Yeah.
which meant I needed to run towards all of the criticism,
Yeah.
good and bad or otherwise,
Yeah.
to try to, I was very interested in what, I was running as a Democrat. I was interested in what moderate Republicans thought of me and how I could connect with them.
Sure.
And yeah, I think there were so many lessons that came out of that. One of the most hopeful things that came out of running for office was I really believe that most people are 40-60 on most issues, even the ones that have a different opinion than me. Our perception in the world right now, because of the way algorithms work for social media, traditional media, is very 90-10. There's this perception that those who have different perspectives are so different than us. They're actually not.
Yeah.
And I think this is a muscle we need in our society.
Deeply.
To be able to see the shared humanity, the common values that 99.9%, like, I'm not saying there aren't, there's a few, are some,
there's always statistical
some
outliers.
cruel people in the world. I'm not talking about those. I am talking about the vast majority of people who care about their families and want their children to have a better life than they have, and to work hard and to serve. And most people are like that. Yeah. And so that was really filled my soul running.
That has to be incredibly soul filling. And I'm trying to think of like, okay, how can I take that and use that knowledge to continue? Because I can imagine that the way that we make the world feel a little bit more 40-60 is like you start with your neighbors and your family. And like, how do we build that 40-60 feeling, knowing that everything that we're being fed feels very 90-10? I'm going to take us on a little tangent, then I want to get back to the lessons learned from Congress, but I'm really inspired.
I love this. This is what my up at night issue now too.
Okay, let's be up at night.
It's like, how do we, I think it's about, we need more spaces in our community where we come together with people who are not just our immediate family. Because I think online there's a big sorting that is taking place, right? We are put in echo chambers by people who are very much like us. And there's such interesting research that shows that when you are around like-minded people, we have a big sort going on. And, if you live in a city, 90% of the people around you are Democrats. If you live in the rural area, 90% of the people around you are Republicans.
Interesting.
Online, we are sorted into our echo chambers as well. Yeah. But what happens when you are around people that think like you is your views tend towards the more extreme, because everything seems to work, right? Like, it makes amplifies. Sense. We're not, well, and there's no one challenging your perspective in your circle, right? Absolutely. And so you gravitate towards the more extreme end of that. So I think what we have now is we don't have enough mixing. And I think it's part of the phone culture and the online culture where a lot of our connection is not in person as much. And so I am a huge proponent of just ways we can bring people together and have connection across differences, or just across neighbors. Like, there's a lot more, whether it's a block party, whether it's through churches or through schools doing social activities, but bringing people together to have dinner, have a meal, do an activity. We need more in-person connection and gatherings.
I don't know about you, but like, it's probably a tailwind of COVID, but like, I don't know. And then, like, my life did a little loop-de-loop in the past.
Love the way of putting that.
I fell out of the roller coaster.
Really? So at least you can climb down.
Right. But I'm like shimming down the ladder. But like, I've been craving more in-person connection. Yes. And I think I love that. And just recently, like, my group of friends, even here in this community, like, I am on the more liberal side and my friends tend to be more conservative, but really, truly, I've never put a quantification around it. We very much feel the 40-60 and we can. And I'm thinking of a very specific friend group, because I haven't had many political conversations as of late around that, just because the world feels so on fire. You're like, I don't even want to touch it. But the ones that I do engage in conversation with, I appreciate the fact that we do say, I know we're on different sides, but I'm so glad we can talk about it and hear each other out. And if it starts to get heated, then we'll like repeat that sentence and be like, I'm so glad we can hear each other's sides. So, because it's such a passionate topic for all of us, but like, to just remind ourselves to be gentle about this, because I love you and respect you as a person. I want to hear your side. I want to hear difference.
Curious.
That is, the thought that I love this analogy of like, you're in this echo chamber, and when you just add the same thoughts over and over, it's like tornadic. There's this energy. There is no balance.
Right. And so we all need to get curious about the perspectives. And I think a lot for self-protection, there's this like, oh, I'm just going to talk to people that agree with me. It's too upsetting.
Yeah.
But that actually isn't good for our society because it perpetuates. And it's healthy for me to listen to the perspectives of somebody who has a different view because it might shape my own. I might not change. I might evolve. I might, but that's how good ideas come forth.
What an excellent point. Completely outside of the political realm as well. Yeah. This is how good ideas come to fruition, is multiple perspectives.
Right.
And I'm still obsessing over the run towards criticism. I'm going to wake up in the middle, then I'd be like, yeah, run towards criticism. I know. I'm so inspired.
It's a good framework.
I'm loving this. Okay. So you're you're running for Congress. You're getting these incredible lessons. I'm sure they, albeit, are rather bumpy to receive, but it doesn't turn out the way you wanted it to. How did that, how did you navigate that feeling of it not working out?
I knew from the beginning that it might not. Yeah. And actually I thought it was, I'm a analytical person. The odds of where I knew the demographics and the voting history, and it was drawn to be a Republican district. So I had an uphill battle from the start. So it was interesting though. The polling was slightly up. Near the end, the polling was projecting that I had a chance, or was more likely to win, which in retrospect was not correct. Yeah. But it wasn't even until the end where I genuinely thought, oh, wow, I actually might. So from the outset, I had managed my expectations, but I think then it was a real opening. I had my most recent reputation was in global health. I'd worked 12 years and a lot of folks reach out about job openings there, but I just spent 18 months sort of getting to know every corner of our community, my hometown. Yeah. And I really felt called to work locally. And it was also funny because in my last 10 years at Chai, I'd been in a remote role and I was like, I'm done with remote. I love building teams. Totally. I love,
again, that personal connection.
Yeah. And so, but it was interesting because when I started putting feelers out locally at first, I was not getting a lot of interest because we were like, oh, we're not sure about a politician. Yeah. Which was funny because I was like, guys, I'm lost.
Right. To be clear.
Did anybody see?
Right. It's not on the resume.
I'm actually not a politician.
Yeah. Quit rubbing it in.
I know. So that was funny. And then I was very grateful and fortunate that I was hired in a temporary role as vaccine coordinator for the region through a position. Yeah, it was an amazing opportunity to really work with a lot of our public health and hospitals in the region to help coordinate around vaccine response efforts. And then while I was doing that, opportunity opened at Interact for Health. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'd never thought of global health as a job I would consider. I had never thought of health philanthropy. But then when these things open, you're like, oh my goodness, that would be a dream job for me. And it would pull on all of the skills around, cross-sector partnerships and system level problem solving, things that I had done. So
I love this point of it's good for you when it pulls against all of your superpowers and skills. I love this show, doing this show for a million reasons. One of which is I'm also very data driven, and I treat it as sort of like a long-term research study. Yeah. And one of the findings that I hear over and over and over again, that the happiest, most successful, most fulfilled women are those that are using their natural gifts and their natural skills. So it makes me so happy to hear that you're like, this door just opened and it was like, hey, you're great at all these things. And you're like, well, yeah, I am. Yeah. Which we should be able to say, to be like, these are my skills. These are my superpowers. Yes. So that makes me really happy for you. And it just continues to be another data point to be like, no, really, this is it. How did you, I think one of the things that's hard is when, theoretically a door closes, we don't win the election. How do you stay with that open, tender heart and brave and open and soft to receive what comes next and to just let it happen when you are such a driven, highly accomplished person to be like, I'm going to hit the pavement. I'm going to go find my next role. I didn't win that, but I'm going to go win something else. How do you do that? Because I feel like that is hard for those of us who are.
It is hard. And I think you have to embrace, you have to simultaneously know and believe it's going to work out, even if you don't know when or how, right? So you have to like keep that as your North Star, because you just believe, and you can choose, no one knows exactly how it's going to work out. So you can be worried about it and have a negative mindset, or you can have a positive mindset that it will work out. But so I'm like, I'm just going to have a positive, like choosing that, and then getting uncomfortable with, acknowledging, but also being okay with uncertainty. Be like, I'm just going to have some meetings and talk to people and start to find something out. And I do think that, what you were just saying reminded me, like, I have always thought of like that 2x2 matrix of like, this is what I'm good at. Like there are things I'm not good at, things that I'm good at. On the other angle, like, what do I love and what do I not like? And so I'm trying to look for things in that upper quadrant. What do I love and that I'm good at? And like, I want that in my kids too. It's like, always have that framing. And I don't know what I don't know about jobs, or there are many things that I could be good at that I love that I don't even know. And so being curious and open, and it was, I think there were, and choosing not to hold on to negativity, because the negativity creeps in. Like that's human nature, but we can choose to hold on to it or not. And I'm like, I'm going to put it down.
And sometimes you're like, there it is again. I'm going to put it down again. There it is again. I'm going to put it down again. At least that's how I feel sometimes. I think women, I'm so glad you made that point. It reminds me of another thing that like continues to surface that I'm really passionate about, and that I struggle with as a human, is that like this, even though you had looked at the data and you're like, I'm the underdog, I'm fighting an uphill battle, still losing to women. Women are terrified to fail because we don't feel safe when we don't win, because it's so hard to be accepted.
It's permanent. It's like,
permanent.
You Google me, that's the first thing you're going to see.
Right? You're like,
She lost.
Hey, loser. I'm just kidding.
It's fine. It's fine. We should laugh about it.
Right.
It's like, and also like my life is great now, and I argue like what motivates me is like, where can I have the greatest impact?
Yes.
And I look at like, had I won, or had I won again, now Greg Landsman ran the next cycle when it was redrawn, and he is amazing. And I am so grateful that we have a candidate that is represents our district well there. But I also feel like I'm in a place now where I have better balance in my personal life, and I'm able to add a ton of value in my current role. I had never known that this door would open. And so you don't know, we can't see around the corners. Right. But I say I'm glad I ran, and in some ways I'm glad I lost, because something even better has opened up for me right now. It doesn't mean I won't consider other opportunities down the road, but
I think you just gave every woman major permission to just take a breath and like let it go. Let it go, because you won't even look around the corner if you're so afraid of it, and it could be something incredible. I love that so much. Okay, I'm gonna do some rapid fire questions. Are you ready? Well, they're like rapid fire, but of course they're deep because I can't help myself. Okay, what do you no longer have time for?
Complaining.
I love that. Oh my God, it's so good. I'm gonna say that to my children. What feels worthy of your time and energy?
Relationships, getting curious about people's stories.
It's beautiful. I love this. I think we already know the answer to this one, but do you think confidence comes from knowing a decision will work, or trusting yourself if it doesn't?
Trusting.
Do you have any advice for women? I think trusting ourselves is also a tricky one, especially when like we connect it to failure, and failure being shameful, which all of this is not true. These are all things that we need to untangle. But how does a woman learn to trust herself? Or is it
I think it's also by accepting yourself.
That's beautiful.
I think we practice in little ways of like getting comfortable. Like, I'm not going to have the perfect outfit, or my, it's funny having a daughter who's super into
all the things
in skincare. And I'm like, wow, your makeup and skincare is way better than mine, even though I've had
same,
35
she runs laps around me.
Right. But I'm like, I don't care. Like, it's okay. Like it's, I think practicing acceptance and loving ourselves in small ways can build our muscle for bigger ways, when it's more public things where we have to be like, I lost that very public race, but it's okay. I will find something else, and it's not a judgment. Again, it goes to like obituary versus resume. Like
Mm-hmm.
your obituary is all about your relationships and your love and the, you know, what impact you had on the world through people,
Yeah,
and less about external achievement.
without a
So
doubt. I think that's such an important practice and for women to hear, especially because we're so often afraid to be seen until we feel like we've had it all figured out. You know,
right,
we will hide in the corner and
right,
master something and then share it with the world when,
right,
like, really, like, the greatest gift you can give yourself, to your point completely,
right,
I'm just reiterating, is that if you build the small muscles of trusting
right.
yourself, showing up, not,
Yes.
in the little ways, that's really where your impact is made.
Yes. And then we're all just unfinished work.
Yes. Can we all just be a little
Like we're
unpolished,
never going to be
unfinished?
finished. We're never going to be like,
Right.
which is great.
Yeah, that
Like,
is
may I never
exciting.
be finished.
Yeah, right? May there always be something new and exciting and a
Yes.
plot twist.
Yes.
If they could just be a little more gentle sometimes. But regardless, I think that's awesome. That, again, goes back to your open heart and trusting yourself and trusting the process to be like, listen, what a gift to be able to live this life and run this show.
Yeah.
And like just to be open to what's around the corner.
Yeah.
You're so good at this. Okay. Last couple of questions. For the woman listening who has just reached her, I talk a lot about this now what moment, where we have these moments in life where life pivots for us, or we wake up one day and we look around and we're like, God, this isn't really what I thought it was going to be, or this isn't where I wanted to land, or this is where I wanted to land, but it no longer feels true to me. Mm-hmm. All these like kind of milestone moments where you're like, oh God, now what? So for the woman listening who just reached her now what moment, what would you want her to know about beginning again before she feels ready and certain?
That you can begin again before you feel ready and certain. I think because I think for a long time I thought like there's a day where you're going to feel ready.
Yeah.
And you never feel fully ready. Like you never have perfect information. So you have to, for me, part of it, whether it was running for office or moving to Zambia, I'm like, okay, what's worst case scenario?
Yeah.
Like play out the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Because that gave me the confidence to be like, okay, well, I can manage the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And so let me take that leap and let me not keep waiting for more information and asking myself, well, what am I waiting for? Like what information would change my mind?
Yeah.
And so, and just being comfortable. And I think the more we practice taking these leaps, at least for me, where I was like, oh. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I realize is listening to others, like the people that know and love us. I had not thought, like I had a few folks say to me, like, you should run for office, that I had not, sometimes other people are paying attention. Yeah. And it's not that others always have the answer, but I think just just keep your senses open and be open to like where you're called or nudged, and not to be afraid, because often the worst case is totally manageable. So and true. We learn a lot in that too.
I love that. And like knowing that you can handle hard things is so empowering.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden these big, these leaps or little jumps become less scary. I love that advice. That was a wonderful answer. Okay. What do you know about fear and failure and other people's opinions that you wish you could have given your younger self?
Oh, I would love to tell my younger self not to be afraid, that like to listen more to your own, like to never crowd out your inner voice. Ooh. I think especially somebody who's who's achievement oriented and taking in all these external outputs. It's interesting. I went to an all girls high school, Ursuline.
Right, Ursuline.
And I feel like one of the biggest benefits I got from that was the cultivation of my inner voice.
Oh, cool.
And
that's incredible.
Yeah. To know it, to listen to it, to explore it. Right.
Yes. And it's such a pivotal age.
It is such when as girls, especially, I'm like, you're noticing what everyone thinks of you and what you're wearing and all that, like the last thing you want to think about. And so it was just, I do feel like being in that all girls environment at those 4 pivotal years, like allowed me to explore that inner voice of myself. And so I think, and then you get to college and you're on the, trying to prove yourself in careers and all of that. I think I would just tell myself it'll be to trust in that inner voice and that, that girl that's inside of you, and she'll figure it out, and you don't have to know it all. You're also trying to when I was younger, I wanted to know all the steps and where I was going to be.
Same.
All you have to do is just do the next best thing.
Next best thing. Oh my God. How many times do I say that to myself as I ruminate and swirl? I'm like, just take the next best step. And then you can handle what happens after that. Oh, I'm loving this. Okay. Last one. When the plan changes and you have to decide what comes next, what does it mean to you to write your own story?
It means with confidence and love, taking that next step and not looking back.
Ooh, that's so good. It's really hard not to look back.
It's not hard. Right. But then once you've gone down the path, there's no, let it go. We can't, there's no relitigating. There's no
relitigating. Yes.
You've chosen this path, and it will lead to more branches, and explore those, and there'll be new inflection points, but just be pulled by the future and not held by your past.
Ooh, that's my next tattoo. Oh my God.
I love that. I think about that all the time though.
Yes.
Because I think we're not, there are some people who are like, oh, because of this. And trauma is real. And
it is. It really sits deep in your bones.
We are made up of our experiences. Yeah. But we are not limited by them.
I love that.
So we need to be called and pulled by the future possibilities and not constrained. Our past is baked in us. It is who we are. It shapes us. But we also are full of possibility.
When you feel the past starting to kind of give you a tug, do you have tricks that you do to shake it off, or do you go do something fun, or do you just literally let it go, or before it ruminates?
Yeah, I just track myself. I get good at what are the things when I get in a negative thought pattern.
Yes.
But I say pick up and put down. I can envision, I love practical person. I can envision a carousel with luggage going around. I can choose whether to pick it up or put it back down. You know how you're always looking out for your luggage.
Totally.
Coming around. But I think it's like that. It's I have the power to pick it up or put it down. And I'm not life is too short. Nobody else, I can't control what people say about me, but I can control if I hold on to it or not.
That's incredible. Honestly, I feel like every woman needs to hear that. And I love the idea of being you can pick up and put down. We all have so much more control, especially over our thoughts, which shape our experiences than we think.
Yes.
I love this. Oh, Kate. This has been incredible. And thank you for the incredible work that you do. What an amazing, I hate to say resume because I know we're not building one, but you have an incredible resume. Plus you're just a wonderful person.
Oh, I love the work that I do and work with an amazing
You can
team.
tell.
So
yeah, you can tell that you light up in such a wonderful way when you talk about the work that you do, and what a gift. And I hope everyone holds that to the bar of standard of do you light up when you talk about the work that you do? Because it's so wonderful to see. Okay, everyone, please listen and share this episode. There have been so many incredible nuggets. Kate, if anyone wants to support the work that you do, how can we get involved? How can we learn more about your organization? How can we
go to interactforhealth.org.
Okay.
And then we have a big, what I am especially fired up about is our work with youth mental health and well-being.
Awesome.
It's called Hopeful Empowered Youth,
Ooh.
Named by the youth, called Hey Cincinnati.
Cool.
HopefulEmpoweredYouth.org. That also is a website for any organizations that want to get involved in supporting youth in our community.
Awesome. We will link those in the show notes. Kate, thank you again for your insight and just for your time today. It's really filled my cup right to the brim.
Yay, me too.
Awesome. All right. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Well, that's the end of this episode, but promise me, you won't stop here with whatever it is you're feeling or dreaming about. I hope you leave today feeling empowered to live life just as you see fit. If this podcast was helpful to you, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on. I genuinely just want to help women live the life they dream about. So if this type of content tracks with you, subscribe to this podcast or visit our website, writeyourownsstory.co, to download digital courses or to grab a journal and a mug to just dream in and dream with. It's your life, lady. Do you. And just remember, I'm rooting for you, and you've totally got this.